It's race weekend, baby. We're here. Tim, we made it. We made it. It's been such a long winter.
We made it. Yeah, we made it through the winter, even though it's still winter. But
Yes.
actually, wait. That's a question. Is it spring, Adam, if it's March 13th and it's like 7 degrees outside?
I think spring officially begins March 22nd, 21st, 22nd every year.
Okay.
At least in Canada it does. So
Yeah.
I think, is it feeling like spring? Is it looking like spring? Yeah, in Toronto it is. But we're not quite there yet on the calendar.
Dude, if I woke up this morning and saw snow, I would have lost it.
Oh my God.
I just would
Oh,
have lost it.
yeah. We're due for at least one more good snowfall because that's
Adam,
just the way
don't
it is.
say that.
No, it's coming, man. You just have to own it. You got to own it.
No, man. I don't want to.
But it is. I mean, obviously, it's going to be warm and lovely at Albert Park in Melbourne. And what's interesting, Tim, is that their seasons are completely the opposite of ours. So they're like heading into the fall now.
Yeah,
which is
true.
Weird.
I know, right? I mean, like, I was just sitting here complaining about snow. I don't think I could ever make it in like Alberta or Saskatchewan.
You know what? You could do it in Calgary. Calgary's good because in the winter.
I don't know if I could do it in Calgary.
No, Calgary in the wintertime's good because they have these things called Chinooks, which are big blasts of hot air that come up the mountains from the south. And so it goes from like it'll go from like minus 15 to like plus 10 or plus 12 on like a January day. So yeah,
those places are beautiful in the summertime.
Oh yeah,
absolutely gorgeous. Beautiful. Like
gorgeous.
So, folks listening. I mean, we have a lot of people who listen from around the world. Like
yep.
you know, our home. Like obviously we're from Canada, but we have a huge European listening base. Yeah, if they ever get a chance, check out Calgary, Alberta, Vancouver, all those places in the summertime. Here is, man, it's pretty gorgeous.
Yeah, it's stunning. It's absolutely stunning. You know what's cool too is the fact that we can just ask our listeners, based on where they're from, what that's like. Like what I know we have Australian listeners. Guys, leave it in the comment section. I want to know what it is like to go to the first F1 race in the fall for you and have everybody else call it spring.
Good question.
That's got to be strange. Christmas in the middle of summer. That's got to be strange. Right? Do they have summer vacation or do they have winter vacation, like winter break? We get a couple months off in the summer.
Yeah, we get a couple months off in the summer. Yeah.
When you're going to school, do you essentially get Christmas and all the months around it off in Australia? How does that work?
Like, are they in school? Like, are Australians in school during like July, August?
I think they are. I think they have to be, right? Because the reason that we got summers off was so that us kids could tend to the harvest.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm wondering. Anyway, listen, it's going to be a really, really exciting weekend. We got a lot to break down. But I want to introduce one of the first things that one of the new innovations on Nailing the Apex. We got ourselves a little racing sim, and we got our professional driver, Tim Hauraney, into the racing sim. And by the way, full disclosure, Tim had not had a chance to fiddle with the settings on the steering wheel. So
we started shooting on lap 7 of like my first time in a sim.
Yes.
So enjoy.
This sim. You've done many sims. But Tim is he's going to get better as the season goes on. But check this out because it's hilarious. All right, so we're about to do the Tim Hauraney hot lap for Melbourne.
It's a hot lap.
And he's going to push it as fast and as far as he can. Remember, Tim is a former race car driver, so if he screws this up, this is your opportunity to dunk on him.
Hold on a second here. This is lap 8 of my first time on a sim.
Tim, I'm just wondering why you haven't beaten Max's time yet. So walk us through this a little bit here. What's so tricky about Melbourne?
It's a street course for sure, and I gotta change gears right now. Yeah, I mean, it's just tight, right, Adam? Like, you can't really make a lot of mistakes. You can't hit the grass like that. Can't really talk and drive at the same time, if you haven't already noticed. So yeah, there's things like that, Adam. I mean,
love this.
It's a tough one. This is where Russell had his big crash last year.
Yep.
Here.
And along here, I think, is where Max's engine blew up in 2022, right? Just at the end of the straight.
I don't again. This is because this is a new configuration. This is F1 24. Okay, so I've never played this before either. But it's pretty.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's cool, man. Like this sim was, I guess, given to us.
Yes, it was. It was donated to us. We're going to be doing this, by the way, all season long. So we have Tim Hauraney hot laps coming at you.
They're brutal laps. So these are, see, like right
They're hot
there.
because you're driving, Tim. Ooh, a little wide on that corner though, Tim.
It's a little wide. Adam,
little
just
wide.
a little bit, buddy.
Gotta clean that up. Is it the Aston Martin or is it the Tim Hauraney?
No, it's definitely me. This is 100% me, buddy. This is all me.
So again, while we're going through this, and again, I'm not expecting you to equal the greatest racers in the game, but I do want to know sort of like, tight corners. It's a fun track. Yeah. Is it a track that if you're a driver, is this a track you look forward to? Or is this one you dread?
I actually this is my first time doing this, and so like if the track feels cool, like again, I've never raced on it before. This sim feels pretty realistic. Yeah, no, I think for the drivers, it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
Like it's definitely a challenge, and I think as any driver, they just appreciate a good hard challenge.
How will it differ from starting in Bahrain, where the tire wear, the heat, and the track itself are all completely different factors, right? Because we always used to start seasons in Australia. Now we're back to doing it. I always felt like Bahrain was a little bit of like a warm-up race too, right? They have a little bit more room.
Yeah, I think also like track temperatures, like we just came out of testing, right? And track temperatures were pretty cool, except for the final evening where things were starting to get warmer. So like the teams will have a good understanding as to, I guess, what their cars are like in warmer temperatures, and Australia will provide that. I think the other thing with Australia, though, is like the pavement is quite smooth. It's smoother than what they came off of in Bahrain, obviously.
Right. This is actually like well looked after.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, let's be honest, the desert's pretty harsh.
Yes.
Okay.
Very harsh.
All right.
And like the pavement in Bahrain's very coarse. Like it's really hard on the tire and everything. So, I mean, I gotta remember to change gears here. Like, and so, yeah, you could use that traction control at some point here. But I mean, this is pretty cool. This is my first time ever doing it. Jesse and I were joking. Like, you guys are probably going to see me a lot more around here.
It's a good little racing sim we have
it
here at
is,
SDPN.
yes. This is a ton of fun, Adam. I mean, this is great. We need to get you on here.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be bad. It's going to be, we're going to
see
be
how
spin
that
outs if
goes.
that happens. Okay. All right. Well, that's great. So, Tim, thank you for walking us through Melbourne.
Yeah, I mean, like,
I appreciate it. No, listen, we're going to be doing this at every race this year. So we're gonna we're gonna watch Tim. Almost lost the back end of the gravel there, almost. And the ghost cars in the distance. Tim keeps getting close, and then a little bit wide there. On that
just braking way too late.
Yeah, there it is.
This is a mess.
There it is.
This is shambles. This is a total shambles.
That's your Tim Hauraney hot lap for Melbourne. I hope you enjoyed our first track tour. Tim, I know you did not enjoy our first track tour, but you have been coming in and tweaking the steering wheel, right? Because you said there were some dead spots on it?
A lot of dead spots, Adam. Ton of dead spots in that steering wheel. There's a lot that steering wheel can do that we weren't ready for, and we haven't set it up. So I think when was trade deadline day? Last Friday.
Yes, March 7th.
A week ago, Friday. And I came in, you guys were doing trade deadline, which looked like a lot of fun. And I fiddled with the steering wheel for 3.5 hours, trying to like get it set up properly. I worked with Jesse a little bit on it. And finally, after watching like 100 different YouTube videos, reading manuals and instructions, finally figured out how to actually set the wheel up properly for the F124 game that we have installed on the PC there. And it's a lot better now. It feels a lot better. It handles a lot better. It's a little more of a workout, which is great. Also, I think, Adam, like so what's our next video? Our next video would be China. So after China, I think our video, like Japan, and from there on out, the driving will be... We'll
reshoot China. We can reshoot China. We're going to reshoot China because I think I felt bad for you because like there was no control on that. But what's crazy about that particular one, and it's a fan tech thing that was donated actually to us by Mike Schmidt, who's a big listener of the show. Thank you, Mike, because that's a crazy donate. Mike's like, here you go. I have 3 kids and I don't have time anymore. Is you can pump that up to like 100% and like it's literally like driving a car.
Yeah,
like with no power steering.
Super physical. Like, with no power steering. And you can actually, so I tried it. And like when you get into the high speed sectors, You can really feel like the downforce starting to get loaded onto the steering wheel. And man, it's there. I thought I was in pretty good shape. Apparently not. That's all I'll say.
Okay. I like that, Tim. I like that you're honest about that.
I'm not going to lie to you, man. I will not lie to you.
No, I appreciate it. So here's the deal. I mean, Albert Park, as we kind of went through on the sim there, is high speed. It's fun. It's a real racetrack, right? But it does convert back to, a pedestrian track. And so when you're driving on tracks like that, I know that they've resurfaced it recently, but sometimes, obviously there can be some wear and tear that from year to year changes. What do you have to be aware of as a driver?
I think that, you always want to make sure you do your track walk. I always found that those were really important. You learn a lot from the track walk. I mean, but drivers are also learning a lot from the sim these days, like high-end simulators that they have. I mean, they actually like laser scan the track to make sure they have the most accurate representation of the pavement, how things feel, where are the bumps, all that kind of stuff. Actually, the F124 game was actually pretty good with the bumps, if I must say. But yeah, that's obviously something you first want to do as a driver when you get there. That's very important to make sure you're doing your track walk with your engineers and your team. When you first go out, I mean, it's going to be dirty, right? It's going to be very dirty. It's going to be really slick, really slippery. The biggest thing is the evolution of the track and timing, which is really hard to do. And it's down to the teams, really, is timing the evolution of the track with when you're setting your faster push laps. Mm-hmm. And that will be a representative time in qualifying. So when you get through Q1, Q2, Q3, the track grips up, it gets faster as you keep going. And then obviously in the race as well. And so you kind of have to, when you're tuning the car, it does make it a little more challenging to find the particulars of the balance, because it does change as the grip of the track comes up. So the characteristics of the car do change slightly. And so when you get into the race, you kind of have to be thinking ahead to that, if that makes any sense, with the evolution of the track and the car at the same time. So they're little tiny adjustments, but they are little tiny adjustments, Adam, that lead to like a bigger outcome, bigger result.
Right.
Let's just say.
Okay. Well, that's exciting.
I mean, they're finer details that it's really hard for like the average fan to see. You know what I mean? You can see it in the lap time, but you actually, as a driver, you actually feel it. And as a team, you see so much more data, right? You can understand where the car's going and what it's doing. But for the average fan, they may not actually see that, but it actually is something that is still important.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, with regards to this race, like coming out of testing, there are teams already accusing each other of sandbagging. So we're really, really, really not going to know who's going to be the best. But the assumption is McLaren, Mercedes, and surprisingly Mercedes, and of course Ferrari might be the three best teams on the grid. And that kind of leads me to Red Bull. Where do you think they're at?
I think McLaren will most likely come out and be the strongest. That's only because of the race runs that Lando Norris put in during the second day of testing in Bahrain. Mm-hmm. Lando seems to think, though, Ferrari's got something that they're hiding. They're hiding some stuff, that's for sure. He seems to think that Ferrari is going to be strong in the race, and depending on weather, like we're supposed to get a lot of rain for this weekend, supposed to get a lot of rain for the race, so that can really change a lot of things. It can affect probably those top four teams who has more drivability in the car. Probably that would be the team and driver to do best, and it's hard to gauge who has that. I mean, it's been interesting over the last two seasons to see that, when aerodynamicists chase downforce, they lose drivability and the driver loses confidence. When they sort of throttle back on that and just come with smaller percentages of downforce being added, so really, really small, they keep the drivability of the car that allows the driver to have the confidence, which allows the driver to show their talent. I would say that when we get into this weekend, this race, and it rains, you're going to see that. You'll definitely see the cars that are more drivable move closer to the front. During the dry portions, though, I do see McLaren and Ferrari as the stronger teams. But Adam, I really think Mercedes has got something up their sleeve. I'm not totally convinced that they're the third fastest team. I would literally put them right up there with McLaren and Ferrari. I don't.
Okay, wow.
I just think they're all so equal on that front. And then when we talk about Red Bull, they're bringing a new floor to this race weekend, something they had trialed in the last day of testing in Bahrain that actually didn't really work for them, but they're still moving forward with it from what I was told. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's a great idea.
Well, I mean, it will be fascinating to see how Max Verstappen, who, despite the issues with the car, was able to overcome and win the championship. It'll be interesting to see what he does with the first 6, 7, 8 races, because they may not have an upgrade until like Miami. Sometimes that's how long it takes teams.
Yeah, probably. Like I would say, because the cars are already going to be over in Australia, then Japan, then China. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to bring updates for those 3 races. You kind of want to sort of see what you got, and then you can move forward with the execution of the upgrade. We may see some in Bahrain. We may see some in Saudi Arabia, but I would expect some of the more like bigger updates to come to like Miami, like you had said. I mean, remember last year, right? When McLaren, they didn't have any updates until we got to Miami, and I think Oscar got 50% of it and Lando got the full update. And so that is also another trajectory that I could see things going to, is more teams starting to bring bigger things to the car when Miami rolls around, only because that gives them a little more time to experiment, see what they have, and if they want to create the upgrade that they think is going to help the car. But yeah, I mean, so many storylines coming into this one, Adam.
I think there's some crazy storylines, Tim, and I forget Max for a second. Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that Oscar Piastri just signed a big extension, multiple years, and it's certainly starting to feel like there's going to be a showdown between him and Lando Norris, and that's kind of major, right?
Huge. What do you think? You're a McLaren fan, so
yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to mistakes made, right? Like McLaren needs to support if they are going to be competitive, they're going to need to support come race 10 to 12. I think they're going to have to start to throw their support behind the driver that's got the lead, and you don't want a situation where where you had like with McLaren in, I think 2007 or 2008 with Lewis and Fernando, where they took points from each other and Lewis ended up losing the championship by a point or two, right, in his rookie season, right? It is something that the McLaren rules are going to have to be clarified and quickly, and I'm sure Zach Brown has done that. The one thing, I don't know what Zach Brown is like to work for. I would assume he's demanding. But he seems, at least in the media, very clear. So I would assume that's what he's like behind the scenes too. What was unclear, Tim, they were clear about their rules last year, but we were unclear about how that helped them win. At least how them help that win a driver's championship. We know they won the team championship. So I'm wondering how much of that has been adjusted. I can't wait for the first article on, hey, I have the McLaren rules from a memo internally and it got leaked. I can't wait to find that out, because, Oscar and Lando have played really well together as teammates.
Yep.
But you saw flashes of competitiveness, like, Oscar going, well, if Lando wants to pass me, he's going to have to catch me, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and hungry, yeah. Yep.
I mean, this is going to be a story almost right away.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think it was. I like this. First of all, I like the signing.
Yeah.
When you've got a driver who's really talented, championship, caliber driver who would be available after 2026, because that's when his original deal ended. I mean, I wouldn't put it past any team to try and go after him this season.
Yeah.
And that team in particular, I think, would have been Red Bull, because
Yeah.
Mark Webber, who's Oscar Piastri's agent representation, he has obviously deep ties with Red Bull Racing. He knows the buttons to push. He knows exactly who to go to. He knows exactly who he's dealing with.
Yep.
And he knows how to get their attention. On the flip side of that, Oscar Piastri was a driver that Red Bull Racing actually really wanted to get into their development program. They were just too late to the punch. Alpine just beat them to it, or Renault, I should say.
Yep.
And for Zach to get this deal done now on the eve of the first race of 2025, that gives Zach and Andre Stella the security to know that he's going to be around. It gives Oscar the security and the knowing that he wants to be around, that they want to have him. And then on top of all that, you've probably equaled him in pay with Lando Norris. Like, I think they'd both be getting paid the same amount now. Like, I doubt one is getting paid more than the other. So that's signifying what their stance has always been, which is these are both number one drivers, right? So if I'm Mark Webber, I'm going into Zach Brown and I'm being like, hey, like, you're saying they're both number one drivers, but they're not getting paid number one driver salary. I have a feeling that's sort of where this conversation sort of started last year.
Right.
I got a feeling that's sort of how that ball sort of got rolling, really, you know? It's like, I mean, it's a good signing. He's worth the money, I would say.
Oh,
definitely
no
worth
question.
the money.
No question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, he's worth the money. No question.
But like Adam, I mean, he could win a championship this year.
Do you know what the money came in at, by the way? Do you have any idea?
There's been rumors of how much money's being thrown around. Could be anywhere from £25,000 to £30,000.
Like a race?
No, sorry, 25 million. Excuse me,
million.
25 million pound to 30 million pound, probably in around there somewhere. Because we have to take a look at because I think Norris is somewhere in there. He's got to be close to Lando, if not equal to. I wouldn't imagine they would pay him more than Lando. I would assume they give him the exact same amount to keep both drivers happy, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah. I mean, you could have a serious problem on your hands then, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So, and that's probably why they keep that stuff quiet too.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%.
So, I mean, that pairing, as I said, they've been friendly. I wonder how long that can last.
What do you think, Adam? I mean, they're both super talented drivers. They're both going to have a great car this season. And they're both going to have a chance at winning driver's title. So
if Lando can forgive Max for what happened in Austria last year, then I feel like that Oscar and Lando can respectfully get through any difficulties they will face, and they will face them together. I think they can do it.
I don't know, man. I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out.
Oh, me too.
Because you know what drivers are like, right? Like, you've seen drivers who were good friends have massive fallouts. So,
oh yeah,
I mean, it can happen, and I think for Oscar, he's definitely going to give it a shot. I think he's going to give it a shot, definitely, to try and win the driver's title this year. I don't think he's coming in here with the mindset of like, yeah, I'm going to back Lando up. This is going to be great. He's definitely not coming in with that mindset. It's no way.
Right. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Now, Tim, the other thing I want to keep, or I want to talk about is Liam Lawson said that Daniel Ricciardo was the only one who sent him a message to say congratulations on getting the red seat. He said, when I got the Red Bull seat, Daniel is still the only driver, past or present, to send me a message about it, congratulating me. It says a lot about him as a person. Is it weird that Liam Lawson didn't get any sort of congrats from anybody else, or is he just taking the time to say Daniel's a classy guy and I really like him?
I think he's lucky he got one person sending him a message. Congratulations.
Okay, so that's not weird. That's not strange.
Why would look? I mean, I was never congratulated for anything, so why would you throw out congratulations to somebody else? I mean, I can understand the drivers congratulating Lewis. That's a huge deal for a driver to go to Ferrari. That is a pairing that I think everybody in motorsports wanted to see happen. So yeah, I mean, I understand that, but like, yeah, I mean, did Isaac Hajar get any messages from anybody when he got signed to RB? I mean, probably not.
But apparently he is like, I guess he's
big Lewis fan.
Yes, he's a big Lewis fan. They're talking about how he's like sweating every time Lewis comes around. Like that's amazing. Like
great.
That is so funny.
Oh my God, it's so good, Adam.
Yeah, and you know, for him, he's like the rookie that we've talked about the least because he hit sort of the quiet entrance, right? Gabriel Bortoleto and Franco Colapinto if he races this year, but Jack Doohan, you know, these guys all had stories around them. Whereas Isaac Hajar just kind of got to work in F2, and they promoted him, and we'll see how he does.
And him and Bortoleto had a close finish in Formula 2 too, as well. So
Bortoleto was amazing last year; he was incredible. Now, I'm gonna bring up some of the scandalous stuff because I haven't told Tim about this. Tim has not seen this yet, but Helmut Marko talked, and when Helmut Marko speaks, things happen. And he called Gabriel Bortoleto a B driver, gives him a B grade. And Gabriel Bortoleto has responded. And I thought you would find that kind of funny. On the F1 website, it even says he was talking to Service TV. Marco said this year's new wave of drivers, he kind of gave his thoughts on them, and he put Bortoleto in the B category. And Bortoleto was asked about it, and he said, I think Helmut is a guy that has been in F1 a very long time. I'm switching it up because he's obviously there's a bit of a language thing here. He has put a lot of very talented F1 drivers in the past, but he's also probably put more drivers that failed to stay in F1. I have to be honest, I respect him for his achievements with the drivers, with Max. But for Max, for me, is one of the greatest in the sport. Everyone can have an opinions. We live in a free world. I think he has opinions about me, but I think I proved myself to be an F1. I won F3 and I won F2 as a rookie. So yeah, I mean, I love that kind of attitude. And listen, this is Fernando Alonso's guy.
Oh yeah,
right?
Oh yeah.
So
Fernando was talking about him earlier during the media session today. Even said the same thing about how talented he was, and it was a no-brainer how hungry he was, and he deserved to be in Formula One because of his work ethic and what he was willing to do to get the Formula One. And he's won on pretty much every single ladder that he's raced in, won championships as well. That's a mature response from a very young driver. I mean, if I was at his age, I think my response may have been a little more
F yourself,
colorful.
Yeah.
But no, good for him. Like that's a very well thought out, mature response. I actually was like, oh wow. I mean, like he handled that really well. Good for him. Like I'm excited to see what he can do this year. I think he is between, Kimi Antonelli, Ollie Behrman, Isaac Hajar, Gabriel Bortoleto, Jack Doohan. I'm not going to count Liam Lawson in there. Out of those other guys, I mean, yeah, I think Bortoleto is right at the top. He's just going to have a really bad car.
Yeah. Well, and that's going to be the thing, right? Like, I mean, have Sauber Audi, I know it's an Audi team now. Have they bothered to even change the wheel guns, like to at the pit stop? Like, remember that we were talking about that last year? Those are like 6-7 years old.
Yeah, they got that was for the first part of the season last year, right? They're having all the issues with the wheel guns. That's all been sorted out. They've got like this new technology. It looks like it's for night races, but I can't confirm that. Sort of tells the mechanic when the wheel is actually on in place and locked in, and it tells you on the gun with a different type of light. It's a massive light that lights up. sort of thing. So I thought that was kind of cool to see that. But I mean, the team, Adam, we'll see where they start. I'm not expecting big things, but I do like the driver lineup. And like we've said in our preview podcast, I like the Hulkenberg Bortoleto driver pairing, and like we also talked about, last week with Jonathan Wheatley coming over and being the team principal there. I think that's a great pickup. Great.
Yeah.
Pickup.
Oh yeah. Oh, I mean, Jonathan Wheatley, and I do want to touch on that because you talked about that last episode. There is an air of credibility that's coming to this team that for so long, and Sauber was, as much as they've never won a championship, a respectable name for a long, long time in this sport. Some great drivers that have driven for it. Some great brands been associated with it, including BMW and Petronas too. I think they're, obviously they're with Mercedes now, but they were with Sauber for a long, long time. It will be interesting to see this team try to pull itself out of one of the sports. Like, it is one of the sport's longest serving teams. I wouldn't call it the most storied. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, that's Ferrari, right? Like,
yeah, well, exactly. Ferrari's obviously the most storied, but even if you look at Williams and the fact that they've been down near the bottom for a decade, they're still one of the most storied brands.
For sure.
McLaren had a terrible decade, one of the most storied brands.
Yeah.
I can't say the same for Sauber, so it'll be very interesting with, Mattia Binotto and Wheatley and, Nico Hulkenberg, who's a great qualifier, and you need to be in a bad car. Bortoleto's a rookie. The Audi branding appears next year. All bets are off. We have no idea what the new regulations. Like, this could be a very exciting turnaround for them. And again, we talked about it last episode, Tim. I don't know how much they're going to put into this car, right? Because
that's the question.
Why not put it on for next year?
Yeah, exactly. Why not just save everything up and just go, full on with the 2026 regulation? That's what I would do. I mean, if you know that you're coming in with a car that's, maybe not going to be a point-scoring car. I mean, last year's wasn't.
No.
I mean, what's to say that this year's going to be any different? Like, maybe they'll have made some gains in a few different spots, and I'm not saying they're showing up with the same car that they had last year. There definitely won't be, but I mean, is it going to be a big enough step to, crack into the top 10 in some races?
Right.
That's what's going to be the question, right? And it's kind of like, when do you pull the plug on refining this car that you have now? Like, when is that point?
Yeah, I gotta imagine it's early.
Yeah, right.
It feels like Haas 2022, right?
Yeah.
Or 2021, whenever.
2021, where you're basically like running something similar to what you did the year before because you want to dump all your development and wind tunnel time into the new regulation change that is coming.
Yep.
Audi's been very busy behind the scenes, getting their engine program dialed in and ready to go and ready to test on dynos and things of that nature.
Yep.
And so the technical team, they're going to have to be the ones who dig their teeth into the aerodynamic regulation. Mattia Binotto, I mean, he's got his work cut out with him to try and secure, I think, more talent behind the scenes. I think that team still needs to grow. Yep. I don't think they're big enough. Like, I don't, in terms of like
how, so I know like some of the bigger teams have like 1,000 people working for them. How many people would work for that team? Yeah.
I think they're in the 400s, like
wow.
400, 500s. Okay. But like, there are a lot of other teams that are as well.
Yeah.
I mean, not
but they
everybody
want to be a big boy, right?
Eventually, they want to work their way towards that. But I don't even know if their facility is big enough in Switzerland.
Switzerland, yeah.
Yeah. So
they're moving it, are they not?
I don't know.
I gotta think that's going to Germany.
Well, they've got like a state of the art wind tunnel already.
Oh, okay.
So I don't see why you would just pick everything up and then just move everything, right?
Okay, yeah,
I mean, I would stay where you are and have the engine people come to you every so often, right? Yeah. As long as you're sharing the data, sharing the information, you should be fine. I mean, like, it can't be far to go from Germany to Switzerland, right?
Yeah. No, totally understand. So, okay, Tim, the other guy that Helmut Marko kind of dissed, Jack Doohan.
Oh, come on.
And he called him a C-level driver. And he said, I don't think he will complete the season. And back in January, and we missed this because, we were on break. He said in an interview, and this is with Service TV, and Service TV is Red Bull owned.
Yep.
So it's this is this is a Red Bull employee who's not a part of the Formula One team, but somehow is there every week. Basically just talking trash about all these young kids making it. But Jack Doohan, he said that Jack Doohan, he said he expected more from his debut in Abu Dhabi. And basically, Jack Doohan basically has said, listen, I'm going to treat every race as if it's my last. And he said, I do have to perform, but he's obviously, he asked, he had a classy response to it as well. And part of me, Tim, wonders, like, this is a really good way to stack the deck in your favor for your junior team. Yuki Tsunoda will be fine. You could take shots at Yuki. I'm sure, he's hot-headed, but he'll be fine. This is a great way to make the story not about Isaac Hadjar, but to make the story about every other rookie. And there are 6 of them. And, you're taking the pressure off Liam Lawson, who some still consider a rookie, despite the fact that he's raced in parts of the last 2 seasons. Isaac Hadjar, obviously with Racing Bulls. And Bortoleto, I think, is the guy that everybody's looking at. Like, this guy could be the next future. And if you start taking shots at other teams' drivers, well, then they have to respond, and nobody's talking about your drivers. Does that make sense? It feels like a strategy with this.
Yep. No, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, I never thought of it. I never approached it from that angle. But now that you've said it, actually makes a lot of sense. Takes a lot of the pressure off of Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar, like you so rightly put it. And I don't think really Helmut Marko really cares what people think about him. So he's going to, say what he wants to say. And that's fine. Everybody's allowed their opinion. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting way of dealing with it. That's for sure. But we're still going to talk about their drivers.
Yes.
We're still going to talk about how they're doing. So it's not really going to deflect from what, you and I do. Like, it's
but maybe the first race or so, like, just to get their feet wet in the cars. And,
maybe.
But,
still though, right? Like, we already know that, Bortoleto is not in the greatest of machinery right now. And Jack Doohan is barely Kimi Antonelli arrives the most prepared out of all of the rookies.
Yes.
Like, he has put in a ton of mileage in old Formula One machinery during the wintertime, like a ton of mileage. So he arrives the most prepared. Let's see where the other rookies sort of shake out in their respected cars first before we start going around judging everything.
George Russell's got to be thinking, damn it, Kimi. You get to walk in here to the big team at 18. I had to race 3 years with some of the worst Williams cars of all time during a pandemic. Poor George has been tested by fire and people still doubt the guy. He does make some mistakes, but Kimi's coming in and he's like, I'm not taking anything away from Kimi Antonelli here, but it's sort of like you get to walk onto the one of the best teams in the grid, one of the best teams in the last 2 decades. That's pretty sweet.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I mean, I think that, this is the first rookie driver that Toto's brought up and put into the Mercedes team. I mean, this is a lot of expectation on that. I mean, I know they want to downplay it and, try not to make sure that, Antonelli, gets in over his head or anything like that. But they've really prepared him. Like, they've given him a lot of mileage to get him ready.
Yeah. Which is really smart. I mean, he is the youngest of all of them too, right?
100%.
All the rookies.
Yeah, I would do it. I would definitely do it if I'm Toto Wolff. I'd spend the money on that for sure. Especially if you believe in him, like Toto really seems to. George thinks he's very talented as well. I think he was really surprised at how well Kimi did with testing in Bahrain. But they are going to go to tracks that he doesn't know yet. He's going to take time to get up to speed. And I think, during George's one of George's media sessions, he had, something that he had said that really stuck out to me was, the fact that when the tire is cold and and the team can't warm the tire up enough, he now knows how to do that without risking damaging the tire. And when the tire gets way too hot, he knows how to like cool things down, but still keep a solid pace.
Right.
And that's just experience. And that's something that Antonelli's just not going to have, right? He just won't. That's a learning curve that he's going to have to go through, much like Oscar Piastri did. Similar sort of thing. But, sticking with George Russell, obviously starting this season, he's going to be, his contract's coming to an end here, and him and Toto Wolff are gonna, Toto's kind of already started to talk to George about a new contract coming up. I think that's definitely going to be something that we're going to be chatting about. I think for George, not really thinking about extending with Mercedes just yet, maybe seeing where the 2026 regulation and car design is for them before maybe considering, sticking with Mercedes. But, Toto did mention that. Yeah. I mean, Toto did mention that, like, he will be starting those contract talks with George imminently. So,
wow. Well, maybe it'll be on that beautiful patio that Susie Wolff and Toto Wolff have in Monaco. Yeah, I mean, you saw the drivers.
See that?
I was like, you're freaking kidding me. It's gorgeous there. By the way, that's Drive to Survive. I think it's episode 3 for anybody wondering. Now, the other thing I wanted to kind of hit on here in the last little bit is, the fact is there's a lot of rookies here. And we're going to be checking in with the rookies as it goes. Liam Lawson, to me, seems like the far and away candidate to do the best because he's had the most experience and that sort of thing, and I still consider him somewhat of a rookie. If there's a guy that you're looking at, Tim, and you're going, okay, the first 4 or 5 races, if Liam is the best performing rookie, this guy's going to be number 2. In terms of driving style, in terms of ability to adapt to Formula One, sometimes maturity has something to do with it, but what we saw with Lewis Hamilton when he joined Formula One is that didn't matter. Lewis was always very mature, but he was just great. What are we looking at?
Probably Antonelli.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I would say him.
He's that good, huh?
Well, I mean, he's just, they're going to have a good car. He's, got a lot of mileage. He's been to this track. He raced Formula 2 here last year. So he knows the Albert Park circuit. I would also say, like, depending on where Haas is, Ollie Behrman really piques my interest.
Oh, me too. I like him.
Well, we don't really know what, like, Haas has got. We don't really know where they are. They're one of those teams that just focus on doing so many long runs that we kind of don't have a target as to where they could actually feed out onto the grid. Another driver who, the Alpine looks good, and Gasly feels that this iteration of Alpine car for this season starts in a way better place than where they were at the beginning of last year. He feels that the performance and balance of the car is way better than it was, more driver friendly. If Jack Doohan can, if he can come out and sort of surprise, I think that's a story.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Just because of all the crap that guy's had to deal with over the last 2 months.
If Jack Doohan somehow, if we're sitting here in December and we're talking about how Franco Colapinto didn't get into a race, Jack Doohan is going to be, I think Jack Doohan will be on a different planet in terms of popularity. He will have to race his ass off to be able to do that. Now, if we're sitting here in December, here's a cool stat, Tim, that I looked up. If we're sitting here in December, Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri will have finished, assuming they both finish with the same team, which I'm assuming they will have finished the 2026 season with 94 race starts as teammates. that will be good enough for close to first all time.
Oh.
Can you name F1's longest race pairing? 104 races, by the way, which is a lot.
Longest race pairing with teammates.
Yeah, with teammates.
Can you give me a year?
I can
Can you give me a beginning year?
I can give you a range. So it would be 2000 to 5 years later.
Schumacher Barrichello?
That's right, Tim Rainey. Yes! Yeah, he's on fire to start the year. Woo! I love it. Yeah, Schumacher Barrichello, 104 race starts. Now, they did it over a longer period of time.
Yes.
Because there were less races. But I still think that's pretty cool for Lando and Oscar, huh?
Pretty amazing.
Yeah. Especially being in their early 20s.
For sure. I mean, yeah, think about how young they are. Yeah, wow, that's a crazy stat.
I'm trying to find some. I'm trying to surprise you this year, Tim, with some stats. Some
Adam, like when does a driver ever stick around in the same team, or two drivers stick around at the same team for that length of time?
Not unless they are extremely successful. And right. I think if you look at Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton, they probably, had they not wanted to move George up or George not been an option, they probably could have kept that together a couple more years, right?
Or if Rosberg didn't retire,
yes.
maybe that would have been,
that
would have been another one. Because that would have been 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016.
Yep.
So you give that one more year. I think they were at 17 or 18 races per season. Mm-hmm. So then maybe you get a little closer to that number.
It's pretty good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's wild. I mean, but the Rosberg Hamilton thing was, man.
What?
I want to read a book.
I need a book on that. You're so right, Tim. You are so right. Okay, so last thing before we go. Give me your top 3 this weekend. Not teams, drivers.
Well, wait. Let's start with you, Adam. Like I want to hear where McLaren's going to finish. I mean, everybody already knows where I think McLaren and Ferrari are going to end up in this one. Let's focus on you for a second here, Adam. Put your McLaren fan hat on. What's going to happen? Where's Lando going to finish? Is he going to scuffle with Piastri? Could Oscar surprise at his home race? What do you think?
I think Oscar's cool as a cucumber.
Yeah.
So for the storyline and the fact that Australia is his home race, I think Oscar's going to be on pole.
Okay.
I think he is going to mid-race be challenged by Lando and by Charles. Because I still think Lewis has got to be adjusting to that Ferrari.
Yeah, I think so too.
So I think you're going to have I'd love to see a front row lockout to start, front row lockout to end. So Oscar, Lando.
Okay.
Charles. And then you ready for this? This will be exciting. This will be a story. I'm doing this for the stories. 4 and 5, George Russell, Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, okay, I can see that happening.
Mercedes beating Lewis Hamilton in his first race in the Ferrari. Whether that's fair or not, that would be an insane storyline. So I think we got to go with that, right?
Deep down inside, Total Wolf would be giving one of those. Yeah.
Yes. He wouldn't be he'd be like slamming the headphones, but for like a good thing. His WhatsApp headphones that are sponsored. Dude. Come on! How exciting,
Adam! That will be an incredible storyline. First of all, but I actually, you know what? I wouldn't say mine's that much different from yours. My only thing would be like Charles Leclerc getting like. I was talking to a producer. He and I work together at TSN, so he's one of the producers of all the F1 stuff that we do together, and. He and I both were like, what happens if Leclerc just throws one on pole position and goes out and wins the race? And, because he kind of feels like he's been in the shadows here to start this year off.
Yes.
And he has. He has. Okay. He really has. So, this Lewis Ferrari pairing is such a big story that it's like really, dominated all the headlines at the team. And really haven't really heard much from Charles Leclerc.
We haven't.
This is his team. So I'm gonna find that very fascinating for
Tim
me.
Rainey.
I'm interested in seeing if Charles Leclerc can do that.
Okay, give me your top 5 then.
Oh man, okay. Well, I'm just gonna go Charles Leclerc for that story.
Do it.
Then I'm gonna go Oscar Piastri.
Yep.
I'm going Lando Norris. I'm going George Russell, Lewis Hamilton.
Ooh, you're picking George over Lewis as well.
Then Max. I'm gonna go Max 6. I think that's where Max.
Yeah,
is.
I think Max 6. Yeah.
I don't know
Now
about
again,
that car.
we have no idea what these cars actually look like.
No, we have no idea.
Like you can go back, watch all the testing you want. There's no effing way you know.
No.
So if there's a prediction that's going to go wrong, it's going to be our first one.
100%.
But I'm so excited.
And the second one.
And second and third. Probably don't get a good grasp on it until later in the season.
Especially this year, Adam. It's going to be so crazy.
Yeah.
There's going to be so much going on. There's no way we can gauge where everybody's going to be. And I don't think anyone has anything that's going to blow the doors off anybody. If anything, we'll see that in the race, who's better with managing the tire. But I mean, man, that's it. That's all we got.
Are you not so excited to be back?
Oh, it's great. Like,
We
this
are
is
back,
going to be, dude, it's going to be a great season. I'm really excited.
It's going to be amazing. Now, here's what we need you to do. In the SDPN Discord, or you can follow us on Blue Sky or on Twitter. Tim and I would love to take your questions. Tim, I think we're going to have the SDPN account send out a tweet this weekend. If you have any questions, make sure you follow at Tim Haraney, at SDPN Sports, and at Adam Wild. We'll get to your questions on Monday's episode. And this year, we're doing things a little bit different, Tim, because after qualifying, you will get a Nailing the Apex update. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, well, Adam, I think we have do we have a live stream on Friday with qualifying for Australia? I can't remember.
We'll have to figure that part out. That we'll announce.
Okay.
If not, we'll do one for the next one.
Copy that. Yeah, so going to be doing a quick 15-minute podcast to sort of capture what happened on track and off track from free practice 1 all the way through to the end of qualifying to sort of wrap up every team's story that will get you set for the race that will happen the next day, obviously. So yeah, I'll jump up on here after quali and we'll hammer that out. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. We'll see how it goes. I mean, we'll see who tunes in, see who watches, see who doesn't. We'll see.
The whole idea is to create this for the hardcore. So if you're hardcore, Tim's going to give you that update every single race weekend, which would be amazing. We are going to be doing, as Tim mentioned, some live streams and that sort of thing. So we'll come out with the schedule on that. And Tim, we're back, baby. Let's enjoy it this weekend. It's going to be great.
It's going to be great, Adam. I'm so excited.